we've seen a ton of reports over the last week that school administrators, college professors, administrators, educators, and parents are all scrambling to deal with the fallout from ChatGPT. And by fallout, we mean there's been this absolute explosion of students at all levels of the education system using ChatGPT to write essays, answer exam questions, complete in-depth assignments. I mean, they're probably using it for 100 other things too. And honestly, some of these popular academic use cases are going viral on sites like TikTok and Reddit, encouraging even millions of more students to experiment with the tool. And in response, there's been a variety of somewhat chaotic and uneven ways that schools are trying to adapt to this new reality. So some public school systems, like New York City and Seattle, have just outright banned the tool. Other educators almost overnight have actually completely redesigned their coursework in response to ChatGPT. So they're doing things already like prioritizing oral exams and handwritten assignments to get around what can happen when ChatGPT is actually doing your homework for you. And even other professors and educators have started to experiment with and adopt new and untested AI detection tools in an attempt to crack down on ChatGPT generated content. So the reason we're talking about this is not only is it a huge issue in society, but it raises all these bigger questions about how we educate students at every level in a world where AI can write and respond well enough to fool educators. And then downstream of that, what does that mean for the next generation of talent coming into industries like marketing or industries across different types of business functions? So I wanted to start off by asking you, Paul, is banning or regulating ChatGPT in schools and universities, is it the right approach, or why not?
Listen, we're not administrators, educators. That's not what I do for a living. So I am not going to pretend to know all the intricacies and challenges that these schools from middle school all the way up to, higher education have to deal with to drive change. At the same time, I've spent a lot of time with friends, deans of schools, presidents of schools, professors, principals, school presidents at the grade school and high school level, enough time to understand that there are lots of complexities to this. So we can sit out on the sidelines and question schools for not moving fast enough and say what seems like the obvious thing to us. So I just want to put in the context that we're not pretending to know the real difficulties that schools have to drive change. I have probably spent the most time at the higher education level, with universities talking about the challenges, and this is even before AI, of the traditional way things are done and taught, how the different systems work, how tenure works. Like, there's a lot of things that schools have to deal with. And so it's not as easy as saying, oh, you should be thinking about AI and infusing it into your classroom. You don't just flip a switch and do stuff like that at universities. So about a month or so ago, this was, I think, right after ChatGPT, I put something up on LinkedIn where I sort of posed some questions. It's like, one, I was thinking about it as a parent. So I think about my kids are in fifth grade and fourth grade. And I do wonder, what should they be taught about AI? I wondered sometimes myself how much I should teach them about it. When they have homework assignments at night, should I be showing them how to use AI to do the assignment or not? So I have these questions as a parent, which then leads me to, well, what should my kids' school point of view be? Like, what should they be doing? Are they even thinking about this? Now, luckily, my kids go to an amazing school, and I'm friends with the president of the school, and we have these conversations. So I know that they're forward thinking and looking at this. But even then, I would challenge them, like, get your peers involved. Like, you need to be, like, this conversation needs to be wider spread. You're not going to solve this on a one school level. This is a institutional system level. So the post I put on LinkedIn was, one, as a parent saying, like, I don't know the answers to this, but I think we need to infuse this into the kids' learning because it's going to be a part of their life. The second, I was kind of acknowledging that whether you're at grade school, high school, or college level, you're going to be faced with some very difficult questions. And I think those are just getting amplified. So I'll just run through those real quick and then we can kind of hit on those a little bit. So if I'm an administrator at college, a dean, president, whatever, and I'm looking and saying, okay, we have to move fast. We have to think about the experiences and the curriculum and how we're going to do this and the impact it's going to have on the value of a degree from this university 1 year, 3 year, 4 years from now. So these are the questions I pose. Does anyone in the school understand AI and how it's changing education? That on its own is like a pretty loaded question because the answer is probably no. Like I'm not going to generalize, overly generalize here, but most AI knowledge in universities is centered within the computer science department. It is treated as a technical discipline. There
Mm,
are very few professors and educators I have come across who are treating AI as a business discipline. And that to me has been the fundamental flaw for the last 5 years. And I have talked to a lot of universities about this, that my belief years ago was there needed to be an AI 101 course at every university. And it was not just a business class, it was every single major should take an AI 101 course, that they should understand the fundamentals of this technology and how it was going to disrupt their career path. I don't care if you're an artist, a nurse, a salesperson, a chemical engineer, AI is going to be in all. And this has been obvious that this was coming to us, at least to us, for years. So we've been having these conversations. So now, if you're a university, you have to flip the switch and figure this out. Who are you going to? Like, who in the university can do that? So then, okay, let's say, what is the school's point of view on AI? What's its policies on its use in and out of the classroom? So that's the exact question you posed. Like, I don't know the answer
mm,
to that, but it seems very close minded to me to say, let's just not allow it. Next is if we want to teach AI, not the technical stuff, but the business society stuff, who even knows the topic well enough to lead a class on it?
mm.
Where are you going to get professors that can do anything other than just show the stuff and at a cursory level explain it? Who actually understands the technology and the fundamentals and its impact on business? Um, how do we keep up with the rate of change? Universities are not structured to move quickly on this stuff.
Mm.
What are we doing today? Curriculum experiences testing that will be obsolete in the next 3 to 5 years. How do we adapt? Are take home essays dead? The answer to that one is yes. I put, how does using AI affect development of critical thinking? What skills do we need to be teaching? What remains uniquely human in the age of AI? These were just like off the top of my head, 3 minutes writing a LinkedIn post questions. Like if you sat back and thought about the future of education and the role AI is going to play, you have to start projecting what do career paths look like in 5 years. Like if you have freshmen right now in any discipline, what in the world does their job look like when they get out of school in 4 or 5 years? Like it's really hard for the best AI researchers to project out that way. So it's a very challenging time. So again, I don't want to like pile on educators and administrators. Like it is, they have an insanely difficult task ahead of them to figure this out. And it's something that I care deeply about. Like I've stayed very well connected to Ohio University, which is where I graduated from. I've spent a lot of time at the business school, the communication school, the journalism school. The president is a friend of mine. He's a wonderful president, very visionary president there, and they've been thinking a lot about this stuff and looking at it for years. Harvard, I know our friend Dave Edelman, who is actually one of the first people to review our book, he's
Mm.
building a course on this stuff at Harvard Business School. So it's like there are universities moving on this. We used University of Florida as a case study in our book. We talked about them in like chapter 15 or 16 about, is this the model for the future of education? Where they had deal with NVIDIA, where they had supercomputer on campus that was actually accessible to any discipline. So I have a lot of thoughts obviously on this, but they're not all formulated. Like I don't sit around all day trying to solve the future of education, but I've had these amazing conversations over the last 5, 6 years with people who were seeing this coming, but in some cases couldn't, within the confines of how education works, move as quickly as they wanted to, maybe to drive change. And I think ChatGPT just made it where you have no choice now. Like
Mhm.
it's here and we have to go now. We can't just talk about it anymore.
So I realize we're talking about kind of first draft thinking here, and we don't have this all figured out, and it's really hard to figure out. But let's take a stab at this. I'm curious, kind of, if I'm an administrator, let's say at a university specifically, let's say specifically in the marketing or business program or school, what do I do? What should I even be thinking about? Because ChatGPT, like we've talked about, is just the tip of the iceberg. You could solve for that tomorrow, and you still have not solved for overall AI education and curriculum and training to prepare students for the workforce.
So day one to me is an AI 101 course. I'll go back to what I said years ago. I think you have to have one at universities. And if you don't have one, that's my number one priority is to find someone who can teach that. Now, I would hope it's going to be the most popular course on campus by next year. So you may have to
Mhm.
have multiple of them. Um, but I think you have to start with the fundamentals and you have to treat this as a cross disciplinary area of study. This is not a pure business play. It is not a pure technical play. This is every industry needs to understand this stuff. Every graduating person needs to understand artificial intelligence and its impact. So I start there. The other thing I proposed to a few different people was I would audit your alumni group and I would find
Mm,
anyone working in artificial intelligence and I would invite them back to campus for a symposium. So I would involve alumni who are working in the space, whether they're practitioners on the technical side or if they're business people or researchers or whatever it may be. So hopefully if you're, a lot of larger universities are obviously going to have smaller universities may struggle to find, grads who are working in AI, but it's a simple LinkedIn search, just all people who graduated from University X and have AI in their title or ML in their title. And I would get them on campus in like now. And I would just have think tanks. I would talk about where is this going? What should we be doing? And I'd be looking at curriculum and experiences. Um, Hugh Sherman, the president at Ohio University, to his credit in 2018, brought me down to campus. Like talk about visionary from a university perspective. And we had a half day workshop with all business school faculty and administrators
mm,
on what is AI, what's its impact on education. And then we did hours of group brainstorming and sharing around how to infuse AI into the curriculum and experiences for students. So I think that was a wonderful starting point for Ohio University. I think other universities should be doing the exact same thing. Um, in their case, we did it the day before school started, so everyone was back on campus, all the professors and administrators, but they didn't have any obligations. So it worked out perfect. So I would be looking at ways to be running those kind of style workshops or summits for the faculty and staff to involve them in one, that they understand it, because don't assume they do. Most don't. So one, give that education. And we had finance, HR, sales, marketing.
mm.
We had all these people across all these different areas of business in the room. And so like once you teach the fundamentals, their minds light up with all the ways it's going to impact the major that they're teaching, accounting, finance, legal, business law, that kind of stuff. And that's what you wanted was this room of people who were like, oh, well, in business law, it's probably going to do X, Y, and Z. We should be thinking about this. It's like, yes, perfect, and we just whiteboarded everything and then synthesized all those findings. So I would start conversations and I would involve alumni and I would involve faculty. But the core to all of it is they have to understand it first. This is the problem we're having with Chat GPT right now. So all these people racing ahead using it, pretending like they know what they're talking about with AI because they use Chat GPT for a week and they have no understanding of the fundamentals of large language models or AI as a larger discipline. And we can't have that at higher education. The professors have to understand AI at a deeper level. They need the AI 101 course themselves.
Yeah.
Then they can teach this in the application of their discipline. So I do think that there are very practical steps that can be taken. Like if you're in journalism or communication school, immediately figure out how to infuse ChatGPT and writing tools into the curriculum now, like this
Mhm.
semester. Don't wait around. But at a higher level, I would be looking at these fundamental steps of involving people in the future of education, because that's what we're talking about here. It's what's at stake.